Hi, Charlotte.
Hi, Amanda. How are you?
I'm good. I've actually got some, I can actually technically speak today.
Yes.
Last week, I was voiceless. Nice to see you all.
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Hi, Richard.
Who was it that it was like God hiding in the background?
Me. Sorry, Richard. It is like having the voice of God. You know, there but not visible.
There but not there, sorry, but omnipotent.
And ineffable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's great to see you all. And there may be more people coming in, but just a few little tips before we start. You can, actually, at the moment, I can see everybody, so that's not a problem. If you want to say something, just raise a hand. If you want to signal that you agree with something, rather than chipping in, you can also do that, which means, yes, that's great, that's interesting. And if more people come in, that means I won't be able to see everybody on the screen. I know, Tony, last time you were trying to draw my attention and I couldn't see you. So there is a way to do that, and that's to click on the participants box. And then next to your name, you should be able to pull down a little menu that allows you to raise your hand, and that sends me a little flag that says, like Rachel has just raised her hand, I think. Yeah.
So what did you do to raise the hand?
Rachel, what did you do?
Oh, what I did was I went into the participants box.
Yeah, I've got that.
The panel, clicked on that, and then there's at the bottom of the section, it shows all the participants, and there's you can lower hand, you can raise your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, Susie and Liz doing it.
Yeah.
But there's also the reactions panel at the bottom of the main screen, and you can applaud or you can do a thumbs up. So yeah. There's another way of signalling. Yeah, great.
Okay. Yeah, well, lots of little practices going on. That's good.
Tony.
Okay.
Where's the reaction panel?
Yeah, can you find it?
Oh, I see. Yep. See it. Sorry. Yeah, got it. Fab.
Testing it, Susie.
Yeah, this is very good.
Rosie's there, but she's on mute.
Say that again, Charlotte.
Rosie is on, but she's, oh, there she is.
Yeah, I am on mute because I'm decorating at the same time. But I am listening to you all, and I will come in and react.
Okay.
It's Lula. Hi, Lula.
Hello to you all. It's lovely to see everybody.
Hi, Lula.
Hello.
Oh, somebody's ringing.
I don't know if I should accept. I'm going to accept that just in case it's to do with the meeting. Hello? It is. Hi, Martin. We have. It's happening right now, yes. We just... all you actually need is well, that's very. I don't know why it's saying that, because everyone else is here, so it's not. No, it's you. If you've got that information, you should be able to get in the meeting. Yeah. Yeah. No, you shouldn't need anything other than the ID and the password. So, okay. Good luck. All right. Good luck with it. Cheers. Bye. Okay. So let us begin. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see you. How's everybody doing?
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Reaction.
Yeah. Back to your reaction page. There we go. Yeah. We have I think all of our artists are with us. Is Susan here? Can't see Susan. Oh, Susan said she wasn't ready to do it, so she's not going to do that today. So I better just make a note of that. Otherwise, I'll get myself all confused. Very ungodlike. And is everybody else here? Yes. I think Bob isn't here. Bob Budd's not with us yet, but I'm sure he will. So if you make sure you've got your chat window open, and you can add stuff there. I'll try to. Alan Rutherford says, "Hi, I'm here, but unfortunately, I can't see you or speak to you, so that's no good." Maybe he can join in. He can watch from the outside. Okay, good. There's lots of chat going on, so that's great. And I think the best thing to do is to start with the first artist, because we've got quite a few artists today who are taking part. But the other thing I was just going to say is that if you want to, if you would like to share work, if you'd like to take part in a future event, all you need to do is drop me an email. I will also attempt to save the chat, which I completely failed to do last time. So if you want to leave a message there, hopefully I can get it from there as well. We are recording this conversation, not necessarily to go public. So if you have, but we could go public with it if you want, if you would like to share work that way. So again, let me know if you have a problem with that. Okay, so I think we will ask Mark Leahy if he wants to kick off. Mark. There he goes.
Going in reverse order. This is a surprise.
You're quite quiet, actually. Can you, I don't know if you can speak up or get a bit closer.
I can get a bit closer.
Yeah.
Does that help?
I think it helps a bit. Can we hear Mark?
I don't know. I don't have a mic with a, or I did have a mic with a headpiece, but it seemed to disable everything else to do with
That's
the
no good.
audio.
Well, I can hear you.
Any good.
Yeah.
Okay. I was expecting to be nearer the end.
Well, sorry,
I'd misunderstood your message. Are we doing sharing? I didn't get to the last one of these. So are we doing sharing screen?
you
And
can share.
that?
Yeah, you can share your screen. Yeah, yeah.
So hello everyone. As I said, I thought I'd be about fifth in line in this thing. So I'd have seen 4 other people doing things and then know what the best etiquette was. What I said to Richard is I talked briefly about, I think we're all talking briefly. He gave us time limits.
I did.
About 10 minutes, Richard?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about a piece of work I've done recently, which was a commission from Exeter Arts and Culture, which is a, what's the word? Not a conglomerate. A collaboration or a project that involves both arts and culture at Exeter University, but also Collider and Northcott and other arts organisations based in Exeter. And they did a, which look for share screen. I've done a PowerPoint for this, but we'll see how well it works. They called for proposals or applications for a quick turnaround commission with a small budget, and they commissioned 10 artists in the Devon, Exeter, Southwest area to make pieces of work. And I made a piece of visual poetry work, which lives on the Exeter Arts and Culture website, and I'll go through that as kind of talk you through it, maybe read the pieces and give a little bit of the thinking that went into the piece of work over the next 7 or 8 minutes, and then maybe say a little bit at the end. I'm not sure, Richard, did you do Q&A, or did that happen at the end, or?
No, we just do little conversations with each artist rather than waiting to the end, because we know that doesn't work very well.
Okay. You need to permit me to screen share.
Oh, do I?
You do.
Hold on, let me...
You've disabled attendee screen sharing.
how can I do that? Let's see.
It'll be in, as host, it'll be somewhere in the settings. Sorry about this. I just had to read to you.
Bottom of the screen.
So if you go to share screen, I think at the bottom, Richard, it should, will that give you the options?
It might do, yeah.
Hello, Bob.
No, that just allows me to share my own screen. Sorry. What I'm looking for is the meeting settings, and I don't know where it is. 40? Oh, wait, here we go.
I can email you the PowerPoint,
yeah,
and then you can do the...
You should be able to do it now.
Okay. Let's see. Share screen. Yes. Sorry about the delay. Does it go? The slideshow happened from. Is that working?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So quickly to recap, the commission titled Hyperlocal was 10 micro commissions, as they call them, and they were launched at the end of April after the first few weeks of lockdown, when we were still all getting ready to this. And the intention of the commissions was to get some work out to people, artists and makers in the region, when for a lot of people, work opportunities and work commissions and access to studios and things had dried up or were restricted. So I produced a set of 9 short visual poems based around the idea of starting from the notion of constraints and limits, which we were working with because of lockdown. They were texts that responded to materials either that I encountered over the course of the couple of weeks leading up to the commission, or that I had gathered, and they worked to think about, if you like, the limit. On one level, to respond creatively to the limitations, or to see them as an opportunity to make, as opposed to merely or only a restriction on possibilities of writing or doing or making or creating. There was some background thinking in terms of the poets or writers or makers that I had in mind, and at the bottom of this slide I mentioned people like Louis Zukowski, an American poet who wrote a series of poems, 80 Flowers, which used a restricted vocabulary and a limited number of words per line. Oulipo, the French writing and art movement that uses constraints as a central concern of kind of how they make writing, how they make art. The poet and writer Bernadette Meyer, who published, among other things, a set of activities or prompts or recipes for making poetry. So it's kind of working with them, and now the slide, yes, we'll go. I use the constraints to develop 9 text image responses, 9 being a square number, 3 by 3. The square format was the first thing I started with. I used the square as a shape because there was also the intention to make these and to publish them on Instagram and use Instagram as one of the ways of circulating and disseminating the work. So the square format was one of the kind of reasons for that. And the series then works with a set of square numbers.
Mark, can I just stop you for 1 second?
Yeah.
I'm just going to mute everybody and then unmute you because we've got some strange noises.
Yes, because we're getting interference. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to mute everyone, and then you can unmute yourselves if you want to say something. Okay.
Okay, I think I'm there. So the first of them, the first of the series of 9, 1 by 1, I tweaked the rule and allowed myself a few more words than 1 word, but there's only 1 word on screen at each point. I made a GIF with 5 words beginning with S, all of which came from that leaflet we were given, that government leaflet with the pale green text on it, which was circulated to all homes early on in this whole process. And the text condensed down to stay, step, still, slow, save. So 2 by 2 or 4, another square. The text, the image at the back of this was this peculiar dice or die from a comic, I think it was Czech or Slovakian graphic comic, and I just picked this very small and detailed from it, enlarged and see the dot printing in the fingers and hands holding the dice. And again, this one has a looping of words, and 2 by 2 is 4, but I pushed one-handed as a hyphenated word. So yes, there are lots of rules, and I used the constraints, but also tweaked them when I felt the need to. And these words just came from texts that I was reading during this time period. They circle and they reiterate and they repeat, and they sort of contradict each other. Rebuttal, one-handed, discourse, engine. Three by 3. These were 3 texts, slogans that happened when I was working and finding the textual material. These happened to be in inverted commas, in quote marks already. There are 3-word phrases that were in quote marks, and they seem to resonate with the fact that we were getting and hearing and seeing lots of slogans, lots of ambiguous and sometimes contradictory and sometimes conflicted slogans. And they ended up kind of resonating in some way for that reason. Anatomy is destiny, hidden mathematical order, freedom of choice. Four by four, 16 words. This went back to that government leaflet and through an erasure process arrived at a set of 16 words. So presented 4 words per line, 4 lines. So we get this square and this curious image, sort of man holding pipe, which comes from a 1960s tobacco advert, but seems somehow to suggest the kind of paternal, caring sense we were meant to get from the authorities who were looking after us or looking out for our best interests. Once, some, stopped, count, person often, sleeve touched, taps palm, tips only, areas hearing every beat. Five by five. A 25-word text. The text is printed over this extraordinary, it's a human lung that has been kind of preserved in some way. The passages internal to the lung were filled with a fluid which allowed it to be hardened and preserved and then presented as a training or a medical example or a medical training tool. And then text which sits over it comes from the index, or was edited from the index to a commentary on the Ancrenawissa. And the Ancrenawissa is a 12th century English medieval guidebook for anchoresses. So how to live life in isolation, how to behave, how to order your day, and kind of very, very detailed practical and spiritual guidelines on every moment, waking and sleeping, for the hermit or anchoress who was living in their isolated chamber.
1 minute, Mark.
Oh my goodness, okay, I'm gonna go really quick. Target gathered, cake habit, nod, doorway chorus, Schutz Harbor Google group, fluid household rhythm, meat essential, store cupboard review, 6 pages toward swap, duration, maker, end tulips. 6 by 6, the material was gathered from research around the hyperlocal project. The image is suggestive again of limits and constraints and isolation. 7 by 7, the words come from the legend of Mary Magdalene, who in the legend, in the Golden Legend, ends up living in the desert in isolation in the south of France, somewhere in Provence, and has a daily visit from angels who take her. She goes out of her cave into the outdoors, and the angels lift her up from the ground, and she gains her nourishment from this kind of floating and flotation. And as the phrase says, she had not the slightest need for bodily nourishment. So the 8 by 8 text is an adaptation from some notes from Internet Movie Database on the final scenes of Robert Aldrich's film Kiss Me Deadly, where again the 2 characters who survive at the end of the movie are walking along the beach and running towards the surf. And I tweaked it into a kind of text which somehow commented on the policing and observation and monitoring of people's activities outdoors during this kind of last period. And the text, the final text 9 by 9 was edited and revised and developed from other material which I was reading again around this period, where I wrote a series of 81-word poems, and one of those became the final text in this sequence. So if it's okay, Richard, I'll read this one.
Yeah.
And then finish. Okay. This is basically Eddie Murphy wearing wigs. See, others in this social order are participating despite a promising start in an across-the-divide mainstream input technology whose true logic begins to feel sore, cramped, and oversized. The system was EU sycophants labouring to live in the very timing of murder most foul, profit, and of Westminster charlatans' climate line. To move the container ships, even arm the factories, and all the others release will persist in a string of numbers. So thank you. That was a whistle-stop race through the piece. The work is on the website of Arts and Culture Exeter, along with the other 9 projects, which are worth a look. They're really varied and really exciting kind of range of work. There's also a version on my website if people want to look at it there. And the images went up as a sequence on Instagram. So at one point within the feed, they sat as a 3x3 grid on my Instagram account, which was one of those kind of things you plan and hope it's going to work. And then it works briefly, and then things all get disrupted again. So thank you for that. And looking forward to hearing the other presenters. Stop share. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. If you'd like to, Melissa says, yeah, thank you. Good, good. Got some reactions there. If you'd like to, who would like to ask Mark a question? I think I can still see everybody at the moment. Yeah, Peony. I'm going to unmute you first. Hold on.
Sorry, how's this working?
I'm just trying to unmute Peony. There we go. Okay. Peony is asking a question.
I just want to say I really enjoyed that because words and images are something I find really interesting. What I was wondering, do you give people some of the context with your combination of words and images, poetry, or does it not matter to you if they don't understand the context? It was so interesting hearing you explain it all, and I just wondered if you actually sometimes give them the context as well, or just leave it to them to make their own interpretations.
I think with this piece, there's a set of notes which you saw on the left of the screen, which kind of went with each of the 4 poem images, and that pointed to some of the background, or pointed to some of the kind of workings, if you like, within the piece. So there were nudges or hints towards that.
Do you do that with all of your work? Your content? Just this one is a bit more hard to decipher.
No, I think this one had a particular kind of public context, and because it was going to be living on a website and be with a set of other works, it felt important to have some of those notes, I think, with it. Also, it was commissioned within a particular context, so it made sense to give some more information in that way. Although generally, if I print or publish something, there will be kind of making notes at the back that gives some account of kind of how it's come about.
I really enjoyed it. I'm going to pass on
Thank you.
to somebody else I know who really like it too. So.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to come in? Well, I have a question. From what we could see on the screen now, this may not be the case in another context, but some of the text was quite hard to see. Is that a deliberate choice, or is that not really the case?
It's part of the way in which the kind of image and text work together. So you get it becomes a question of deciphering it or letting it go as this is what it looks like, or spending time with it to kind of unpick some of that. The people, Sarah at Arts and Culture, asked me to also produce as an option, in which they've put on the website a kind of PDF version which had the, if you like, the clean texts, and I gave that, and there was a sense in which that was part of the accessibility questions in terms of this being a piece of public work, and it meant that it was there as an option for readers on the website to go and kind of see the text without the distractions or without the difficulties of reading it.
Like Susie. Susie?
Well, no, I wasn't asking. I wasn't going to ask a question, but
oh, sorry.
It was no, it's fine. It's great, Mark. Thank you. It's really great to see, and I love your work. It's really good.
Thank you, Susie. It's great.
Anyone else? No. Okay. Well, I think anyway we should move on because time is moving on. So thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. It's nice to share it.
I don't think Kaz is with us, so I'm going to ask Amanda if you would join us. So I'm going to unmute you. There we go. Welcome.
Hi there. Hi, everybody. Right. Right. I've done actually a PowerPoint. How about that? 10 minutes before. So forgive me, it's rushed. And if I can share it, I'm going to share it.
Great.
And what I'd just like to share is actually where I'm at this present moment on arts, and what I've been looking at just over the time of isolation. So I've been isolating on my own for a very long time. Apart from going completely mad, you know, I've been in the studio a couple of times and used the garden a lot. So anyway, if I may, I'm going to share. It's the green button, share screen, isn't it? So
yeah, that's the one.
go that one. Not that one. Desktop. Let's go for that one. First Friday. Desktop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the one?
It's not come up.
It's not come up yet. Okay, I'll try it again. 1 moment. Okay, let's try it again. Screen share. Desktop. Share. Okay, are we there yet?
No, I can't see you for some reason.
Okay, you want to come back to me and I'll sort that out, Richard, rather than waste anybody's time. I'll sort it out and come back a bit later.
All right.
Okay,
yeah. So Lula, sorry, I need to unmute you, so hold on for a sec. It always seems to take a minute. There we go. Lula, hi. Oh no, you're still muted. Hold on. Doesn't seem to.
She needs to respond to the prompt.
No, I should just be able to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Hello?
Yeah, good. We can hear you. Well done.
Great. So you can all hear me now. That's great. It's great to be here. I'm Lula, and my work is about raw clay. I work with raw clay in Newton Abbot area, the ball clay sequence, which is in the Bovey Basin. And So today I'd just like to talk about 2 projects that I've been working on during lockdown. The first one is called Hugs, and that's a project where I'm reaching out to other people and including other people, trying to get participatory work. And then the second project is Clay Cradling, which is a much more intimate work, really about me kind of dealing with lockdown, just a very personal project. So if we start with Hugs, which is, there's an image on the website of the Hugs, and Hugs is a type of clay, and it's only known really to people in the clay industry in Bovey Basin, so it's very specific. And it occurs where 2 types of clay come together. So you might have one very definite striation and then another. And Hugs occurs where those 2 become one. So that kind of in-between space. So what I've been starting to develop is making these little, don't know if you can see that there, these little packages up of Hugs clay, and these are small packages from the Bovey Basin, and I'm sending them out to people so they can have sort of a tactile experience with the clay and make something, or engage with it in some way, whatever the way they want. And then I'm developing a website so that they can upload their photograph of their work. So it's a sort of including people and sort of bringing in this sort of tactile presence that we've been kind of denied through this lockdown period. So I'll just explain a little bit about how this came about. The Hugs happened last year when I went on a quarry visit. The quarry manager was sort of showing me around the different clays, and he sort of very casually said, "Oh, and this is Hugs," and sort of started moving on. And I thought, "Oh wow, oh, Hugs, what's that?" Very, very intrigued by it. And so he gave me a piece of this. This is the. So I've made some postcards also to go with the clay pieces, and yeah, he presented me with this piece of clay Hugs here, and I kept it for a while, thinking, there's going to be a project somewhere, but wasn't the right time. And then when we went into the lockdown and this sort of social isolation, not allowed to touch anyone, and that tactile, that sort of barrier, I kind of started to think about this piece of Hugs and got it out. And then I also was thinking about this symbol here. This is what they use in the quarry. The quarry workers use this symbol just to communicate over distance that they found some Hugs clay. So they're actually using this symbol, which I found really charming. So yeah, that's how this project began. I just wanted to sort of engage with the clay and make a photograph. And then I wrote a little article for the Ball Clay Heritage Society, which I'm on the committee of. And then I started to think, but there's more with this, it would be nice if people could get really tactile with the clay and use it at this time. So that's when I started kind of making the little packages, and then on the back there's little instructions how to use it. So so I've sent those out. I'm just sort of getting going with it, and I've sent those out to 2 people as a sort of see how it goes experiment. And I've started to set up a website as well called hugsgallery.online. So that's sort of in process and beginning to run. So it's nice, you're really the first people I've really kind of been able to share it with so far. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, and it's nice to reach out to other people. It's not something I've done before, so lockdown's really brought about a sort of change in the way I've worked. So that's the Hugs project, and I'd just like to sort of talk a little bit about my other sort of more personal project, which is clay cradling, and which also came about, you know, through sort of isolation, lockdown. And this is, there is some images on my website which I've put in the chat, but I actually would like just to kind of sort of demonstrate. I've got this is my clay here. This is my clay cradling clay that I've been working with, and it's a sort of daily practice really, where I've been sitting in a particular place, the same place every day, and just cradling the clay. It's a really, really basic, really simple. It's a very simple action, but it's a daily action, and it's very grounding. And with the clay, clay's such a physical, such a tactile material. So again, it kind of puts me in touch with all those sort of qualities that we're sort of denied at the moment. And by doing it every day, it kind of gives a rhythm to this unknown time, especially sort of earlier on, and all the projects or activities that I might have been doing didn't mean anything anymore, you know. The actual clay is like an isolation clay really, because this came from the Bovey Basin, and I did have other plans for it, but that all went out the window. It just had no meaning. So in a way, this piece of clay here was kind of in isolation as well, and it put me in touch with the earth and really grounded me. And also the clay is it's actually a symbol of life and death, and it appears in many creation stories as the beginnings of life. So it sort of connects to feelings of mortality, and also, you know, in the lockdown and you know, the threat of possibly not surviving. So it's really, the clay really sort of speaks in that way. And it's in some days I just sort of hug the clay and rock with the clay, and sometimes I'm more thinking about sort of clay as a transformative potential, you know, and just sort of gently squeezing it and perhaps making some sort of form that never comes to any sort of fruition. So, and also the clay, you know, when we touch the body of the clay, we're actually touching the body of the earth. So it sort of puts me in touch with humanity and the earth herself. So that's the clay cradling. And so yeah, those are the two pieces I've been working on, and I've really enjoyed the time through creating those pieces, and it's been lovely to share that with you. I'd welcome any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Lula.
Thank you.
Will you ever be able to make anything with that piece of clay?
I don't think so.
Anybody like to come in with a question or a comment? Yeah, Ellie. So I'm just going to unmute you. Okay.
Hi. I really enjoyed what you said. It's so honest and tactile, and clearly you are at one with your material. I think I missed what was special about Hugs clay. What was it that made it different to the other to other clays?
yeah, the hugs clay is something I didn't actually know about. It's something that you wouldn't know about it unless you were working on a clay site, and it's the clay that occurs when two very distinct type of clays come together, so they're bonded. So it's where those two distinct types of clay bond together, and they're kind of in an embrace.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Yes. And it was good to hear that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, good.
Anyone else? Liz. Oops, sorry.
I just want to say that I found your presentation very moving, actually, and it really sort of, I just thought it really touched something very fundamental about lockdown, which is this, lack of, particularly for people who live on their own. I mean, fortunately, I don't, but this lack of kind of, lack of physical and tactile engagement with people. Just the fact that you can't get hugs anymore is I think it's huge. I think that's a huge impact that we all consciously or unconsciously have to deal with. So yeah, that's, I just wanted to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's easy.
Unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you, Lula. That was really wonderful. Really wonderful. Do you have to keep your clay, your lovely hug embrace clay, your big hug clay? Yeah. Do you have to keep that moist every night? Do you have to keep it?
I do. Yes. I water. I water my big.
You water it. How do you water it?
I've got a special little cup. And I use the stream water because there's a stream.
Oh, nice.
I put stream water and yes.
Lovely.
Yes,
so you massage it in. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Moisture and hydrated.
Yeah. Do you keep it wrapped in a cloth? Do you keep it wrapped in a damp cloth?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Wonderful.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good. And what are why do they mine the hugs clay? What do they want it for?
It's actually
commercially.
Mainly they're not that interested,
Great.
It's the two other clays that they're more interested in, so they're not so interested in the hugs clay.
That's so interesting. That's great.
Yeah.
Good. Something that commercialism isn't wanting. That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does the clay in the Bovey Basin have a particular characteristic?
Yes, the clay, the Bovey Basin clay is called, as a whole, it's called ball clay, and it's very, very plastic. So commercially, that's what it has, that plasticity. So where China clay has got that whiteness, which is quality that everybody wants, the ball clay has plasticity. So that's what people want it for, and they'll often, with potters and things, they would add some of the ball clay to enhance the plasticity of their clay.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's great. Amanda, shall we, do you want to try again? Amanda?
I'm going to try, hi there. I'm going to try once more. If not, I shall disappear and get a coffee. All right. Give me 2 seconds. Right, here we go.
Okay. Excellent.
Are we on?
We're on.
We're on. Okay, so here we go. First Friday. I nearly put FFS. Right, okay. So during lockdown, I've really I'm known for my painting and community work. I'm a community arts practitioner, but most of my exhibitions and open studios have been cancelled or postponed. So I have a very empty diary. So I thought what I'd do is do a whole skills inventory of myself, and see where I come. I need to move forward. And very kindly, the Arts Council England have given me £1,500 to actually invest in myself and my business. So that was really nice. So that's very helpful. So what I went to do is, looking back to look forward. I did art and ecology at Dartington just before Richard and Nancy in 2007. And from that, I started a community project in my hometown of Ivybridge that lasted about 10 years. Most of it unpaid, I might add. Right, so, but it came directly out of my dissertation, that through my own need, really, I moved back to Ivybridge, didn't really know anybody. I joined every group in the whole location, every club. So the only club I couldn't go to was the Probus, which is professional businessmen. But I went even for one day to every club, and then invited them all to come on a walk with me. And I sort of, over the year, I became my own expert on who is who and what does everybody do in the town. I invited some of the club members, various, to join me for a walk, and I did 2 long walks, one from Princetown and one just very locally. And all the different clubs met each other. Really, it was really to get to know our local town, the moors, the woods, and re-engage them. But it just carried on and on and on. So I ended up as part of the town team, which I'm sure happened in, I think I saw Nikki Harwood there, down in Liscard as well. And I was on the regeneration committee. I refused to be a councillor because I could get more done outside. And we ended up with an arts festival. And I'm looking back at that and thought, well, what is the legacy? What's the legacy around town? Lots of questions of how do you measure that legacy? How long do these ideas and things take to seed? So that's my first thing I looked at for myself. This is me, look young, turning Ivybridge into a work of art. So I had to be very generous, really, with ideas, because when you put ideas out there and you agitate, they take off themselves. You can't own them. So that's what that was about. This is interesting. I'll just move that along slightly. This is one of the I suggested. Just down in the local village, I put in, what sort of clubs would you like? And I thought that was wonderful. I don't know whether you could actually see that. It's the barking club for dogs and artists, a friendship club and things like that. And originally one of the town councillors, she really took umbrage with me asking. She said, we've done this research. What do you think you're doing? Nobody gave you authority to ask. But anyway, over 10 years, she actually became, that one councillor became my greatest advocate in the town council. She helped me do all the arts festival. It just shows you. So anyway, so that was the community work. I also am a moorland guide, and I lead land art workshops for big art projects. So that's another of my heads. I'm sort of going through the heads. I do workshops, I lead archaeological walks. This is talking about Bovey Basin. This is actually made with some of the clay. So this was in a project called Granite Elements over at Bovey Tracy. It was a Parishscapes project. So this is my contribution. So you've got arsenic, you've got some filings there from Kelly Mine, from the bottom of Kelly Mine. The orange is the arsenic. You've got some clay ball in there as well. So that's sort of part of my painting practice. These are sketchbooks that I do for a project. This the one on the moss one, this was part of the granite elements. So I do bookbinding, and that's part of my arts practice as well. So you can see it's sort of going all sorts of different different disciplines here. I do printing, so there's a little bit of printing going on. I do textiles, I do knitting. This is my painting practice, me in my studio. Now this is what I've been doing in lockdown. Because I sort of couldn't go further afield, I've been looking closer just in my back garden. So I've made some little tools for painting and mark making. You can see there's a tiny little hazelnut in there, but that's sculpted by a little mouse. Some, magpie feathers, some roots. So I went on to do, this is what I've been doing in lockdown. Some lovely marks, some dandelion marks as well there. A time for experimentation. There was no deadline, which is lovely to play, in the studio. No deadline whatsoever, no exhibitions, really nice time. I've also been going back to look at what's my go-to books. These are mainly from the art and ecology. You might recognise some of them. But what do I keep just on my shelf in the studio? And I'm revisiting those as well. Some people may recognise some of those actually. The Hidden Order of Art is the top book, and there's a creative maze in there. I think I've put a little note further on about it. This is it. Now, it's a bit crazy, but this is how I set up my ideas. The larger diagram is what I did in art and ecology, and the smaller one is what I'm doing now. So it's a thought process, and I've put a little thing for you to look up actually. The Hidden Order of Art is a book, and in there's just one page about the creative maze. I'd like you to look at that. It's an old book from the 1970s, but it's it describes that you can start at one point, but as an artist, you have to have an overview of all these different ways it could go, and no one way is right. You have to hold that in your mind and just follow that lead. You don't know where it's going to go. It may come to a full stop, and then you take another direction. And that's the way I'm thinking, and that's the way I plan projects really. So that's where I'm at just now. That little circle of creativity. You can see some cancelled things all the way around. But I'm looking towards how do I use my skills now, looking back, to move forward. And really, I'm looking at what tools have I got for tomorrow? When we come out of lockdown, what can I use on my experience that may be helpful? It may be in community, and it may be a course. I don't know yet, but that's what I'm working on. So that's it really, and there you go.
Great, thank you very much. Can you? No, hold on.
We're back onto it.
If you can unshare your screen, I think I can probably do that.
You're up. Can you do that? Stop share?
There we go.
Right, there we go. That was a whistle-stop tour. I hope it made some sense to anybody.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Anybody like to come in to Amanda? Yeah, Tony, I'm just going to unmute you there. Yeah.
Hi, Tony.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very interesting and moving too. I've been noticing lately that there's lots of artist-led work going on in the town of Frome over the last few years. And it seems to me that what you were doing in Ivy Bridge could be, really related to that. And I wonder whether you were interested in that. I can't remember. Was it Foreground? The group that organised the things in Frome? I wonder if you know about that anyway.
No, I haven't, but I know that there's sort of little pockets of something very similar right the way round. I think there's something, I haven't yet investigated, but I think there's something going on, somebody from Plymouth that's in a research group about that town council and artists being involved with decision making.
Yeah.
Right back when I finished my arts and ecology, there's a school of social entrepreneurs in Dartington. I think it's still there, but they wanted to sponsor me to be a civil artist, you know, it's sort of like a civil servant, but be on the town council. But at the time, I just couldn't take on any more, you know, I couldn't take any more studies really. And so I sort of needed to work. But it's an interesting concept of artists equally sitting on the town council and making decisions. So yes, thank you, Tony, for that. I've made a note. I will make inquiries.
I think the organisation is called Foreground.
Right.
The local council is very active in extending democracy into the community, but no doubt part of that, there's a market which artists and craftspeople sell their work, and that of course has got set aside because of the lockdown thing. And there was an arts festival, and I know that they commissioned some very interesting work. And I think Foreground is the organisation, and it's a very interesting community sort of nexus of several different things happening at once in local politics and in art.
Right. Lovely. Thank you, Tony. That's really interesting. I'll look it up. Very interesting. Thanks.
But thank you for your work. It's very interesting, not just interesting because it's like something else. It's really interesting in itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Anyone else? Well, I don't know. A few people have written on the chat about loving the tools that you made, and
yes.
Is that something you've done before, or was that a new thing to try?
Well, mark making. I've always used different mark making in painting, but no, that was new. That was because I was sort of looking closer, sort of macro, at my own little place in the garden. Usually I look further afield, but you know, it was a great opportunity to look very closely at what's underneath my nose, you know, and I think quite a lot of people have used their gardens as places of creativity, but no, it was new.
And do you think that those paintings that came out of that, did they feel really new for you as well?
I think so. I think all mark making is fresh. Yeah.
Great.
So that maybe I've put it on there. Have another go. See where it goes.
Great.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Anyone else for Amanda? No. Okay. Great. Let's move on to Bob. Bob, do you want to talk about? I'm going to unmute you, so yeah, and then you can take over. Okay.
I've done it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Yes.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Oops. Okay. Yeah, I sent Richard a couple of ideas for what I wanted to show. One was of a design I did for a project which has been cancelled and postponed to next year. So that's typical of our time, I guess. And the other one was, well, failing that I can't do my work as usual, I've got back onto rebuilding my shed, or redoing it, taking that a little bit further. And however, and that was the second one, but I'll show you that in a moment. However, this is just something I've knocked up. Two things I've knocked up. Can you see that?
Yeah,
it's a spoon, which is appearing to emerge from a, hold on, so if I go back a bit, emerge from a lump of wood. And I made two of those. That's one version. And this is the other version, so you've got a sort of a spoon head coming out of this piece of wood, which actually had an angle on it. It's quite interesting. But this is also to do with the fact that I put in for a project which has now been postponed, with the concept, at least, of a spoon emerging from a piece of wood, but on a rather larger scale. I did these yesterday because it's my daughter's birthday is this weekend, and I thought I'd give them a spoon each. So that keeps me busy and kills some time and solves that problem. Okay. But besides that, I spent ages trying to work out how to bring an image up on screen, and didn't pretend to be as professional as the other presenters up to now. So I think I have to do something like go in, go out, go in, go out. So
yeah, you should just be able to click share screen.
Yeah, it also seems so easy.
I know, it seems so easy. Bob has a cursed relationship with technology as well.
That's it. Anyway, I'm going to show you 3 images. Let's have a look. Did that come up? No.
Nope.
Nope. Right, okay, try again. Oh yeah. Okay. Got it. Got it.
Hey, okay, good.
Yeah, does that come up?
Yes, got it.
Some of you might recognise this building. It's from Le Corbusier, the French architect, and it's a chapel at Ronchamp, just sort of quite near to Basel. It's where Switzerland, Germany, and France all meet up, and it's just within the French side of that. And this building was the first kind of piece of modern architecture that I'd ever come across. It was when I was just finished my foundation course. I had to do another academic qualification in order to go on. So I finally ended up at Dartington after I'd done my A-level in art and architecture. And so I wasn't particularly interested in architecture at all, but when they introduced me to this guy, it opened up a world of architecture for me. How do I unshare? Stop share. Okay. Okay, next one is coming up in a moment. No, if I do that, share. All right, I got it. Okay. Yeah, sorry about this roundabout way of doing things. Does that come up?
Yeah, we can see it.
Right, this is so the first one from Le Corbusier I saw in 1977, quite a long time ago. And this one I saw in 2009, so 11 years ago. It's from a German architect called Thomas Spiegelhalter. And this is in a new town just outside of Freiburg in the southwestern part of Germany. So that's quite near the New Forest. And I had to go and see this because it looked so weird. And when you look at it, you say, well, does it look like a new building? No, it looks like it's kind of falling down at the same time. So, and these slats are kind of put in a kind of random way. And something that really spoke to me about this building, I had to go and have a look at it. And so I'm leading back through to my, hold on, get rid of that one. Maybe keep it in mind. Okay, finally come up to my shed or my grand design. This is in my garden, and it's a long ongoing project, which, as I described to Richard, it goes forwards for a couple of weeks and then stops, sleeps for a while, and then springs forward again. It's commonly used as a storeroom or workroom, and I guess in a way it's something I've always wanted to do. It's I think it's probably around about 25, 30 years ago, I was thinking about a bucket list. You know, it's what do you do before you go to a better place? And I always had this idea of building a house. Well, I haven't got enough money to do that, so I had to be content with at least the idea of building a shed. And it's kind of like I mean, it's when you see things which are really influential, like the building from Le Corbusier, the chapel, the first image I showed. You think there's something fantastic there. You know, it's beyond beyond the normal, and you want a piece of that somehow. It opens a door to how you think about spaces and how buildings can express certain ideas or how you are in the world. As you see here, it's got a roof garden, it's got various pieces of metal, it's got wood, it's got slate. Actually, I'll bring up another image, actually, that might be better. No, hold on, what's that one? Oh, there we go. So this is a angle side on. So it moves forwards bit by bit. As you see, there's some slate here. So previous to me starting this, I'd actually done a course in store bale building and also cob building and also green timber building. I was interested in how you could actually, well, not only build, but also do things in a more ecological kind of way, if you could. So there's lots of reclaimed materials in this building. I think that's part of the reason why it goes forwards and or doesn't is when I sort of run out of materials. I'm almost waiting for someone else to come along. So some guy down the road a couple of years ago had a load of wood. He was chucking it out, and so I took that, and so it moves on. Let's try that one. Are you seeing all these images? I'm not hearing any.
Because everyone's muted, Bob. So yes, we can see you.
Fine. Okay. There's a combination of images, so materials here. So you've got the galvanized metal, slate, and the wood down below. Let's see if I can go on another one. Stop. We finally want to get inside the building. Sorry if this is such an in and out process. God knows what you're looking at.
We can see it. You're okay. We're doing well.
Okay. So this is the inside. There's the side that you're looking at on the back and the right hand corner there of the building. That's the north side. So I gave it smaller windows. On the southern side, that's more or less where the position of the camera is. That's got more windows on that side. So you're getting the light in from the southern side, and you're trying not to lose it through the northern side. So there are a lot of reasons why the building turned out the way it did. Thinking about how it uses sunlight, how it blocks off sunlight, and where the sun would appear at various times of the day, how it would enter the building. And so there would be, the windows are placed in respect of that. Doing a lot of plaster work here and wooden work here, which I'll probably paint. Right, I'm coming up to the last slide, I think. Yeah.
Because you got about a minute left. So.
Oh, right, okay, that's good. There we go. So another view from the inside. It's kind of cantilevered, so there's nothing much holding it up in the middle. So it's two cantilevers, which are basically holding up the building. So there's it's more or less the weight is in certain areas, which keeps the building from collapsing down. And then you've got some nice windows there with views and so on. But that is my my coronavirus work. It's practical, keeps me busy. Hold on a second, I'm trying to get out of this. There we go.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it.
Great. Brilliant. Thank you, Bob. So are there materials, the other materials, just things you sort of garner over time, or do you?
Yeah, a lot of it just sort of happens my way. When we moved into the house, we had a new roof put on, so we ended up with a load of slate. That's just been hanging around in the garden for ages. So that's been used. There was some slate from a little shed at the bottom of the garden, which is falling down, so that got reused. As I said, the wood gets reused. There's some old jumpers and blankets up on the roof. When you lay in a roof garden, you need a kind of matting, or it's preferable to have some kind of matting where the roof go into your blankets or into your jumpers, and so it stops it from sliding down, gives it a base. So yeah, I mean, it's quite a lot of the insulation isn't insulation at all. It's just a load of old wood which I've cut up and stuffed in there, which reminds me the way they used to build cathedrals, where they have the nice facing stone on the outside, the inside and the outside. In the middle, they used to chuck all the rubbish. So it's kind of a bit like that. You're hiding up all the bad stuff with the little bit of good stuff you've got. So yeah.
So we just had a message from Nikki Harwood saying she's got some double glazed French doors if you want them. Anyone that would like to come up with a question? Yeah, Liz.
Can't hear.
I'm trying.
Okay. I just want to say it feels like a project that's very much about sort of process and conversation and chance, and I just wondered, it made me wonder whether you ever imagined finishing it. And whether that was something that was not part of the equation.
Well, actually, yes. No, it is in the equation, because I keep on thinking, when I finish a part of it, like all the white wooden slats on the outside, I kind of did it, and then I think, well, actually, I'm not sure I really like that, but I'll leave it for the moment. And and rip it off at some other point. So it is, yes, you're quite right. I don't think, I believed that I was going to finish it, but I don't think and actually, when you think about your own house, you know, this house, the original part of the house comes from 1794. It's made in cob. There's been bits added on through the centuries, basically, and then taken off again. And so, you know, has this house ever been finished? And the answer is no, it never was finished. It's just an ongoing project. As people come in, they change it. They've got new ideas. You've got new demands on your life, in how you work, how you live, how you spend your time, what type of family you have, big family, small family. And so, you know, I think that's the interesting thing about buildings as well, is because they kind of contain all that. They contain all that story of how we're developing.
Tony.
Yeah, Bob. I'm not unmuted yet, am I? Hi, Bob. Thanks very much for that, Bob. Very inspiring. Are you able to use it? Are you able to work in there or do projects in there?
Yeah, I mean,
do you need to get away from your family? Work in there?
Yeah, it is. It's partly a man shed. You know, I think, you know, they say that every man should have a shed. Whether it's a shed or not, I don't know.
Not only men.
Yeah, a woman's shed. Yes, I'm sure. Well, it's a cliche with a man shed, isn't it? But yeah, no, it's being used all the time. The problem is, it's the fact that it's always being used hampers me from actually finishing it, because at the moment, one of those photos you saw was where it was relatively empty inside. I mean, previous to that, it'd actually been chocker with whole loads of materials or bits of furniture, and it gets used as a sort of storage space, and that extra space where you can shove everything in and forget about it. So I actually have problems finishing it anyway, simply because I can't get inside often. But I've emptied it again. All the stuff now is in the garage now, and that's absolutely impossible. So I can work again on finishing it, and yeah, unless some work comes in pretty soon, it doesn't look like it at all. I think this year might be quite hopeful for getting it sort of finished.
I think it's great, Bob, and I really love those spoons that emerge from the logs. I thought they were lovely.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I did think of them emerging, but I was wondering if you have it the other way around. Instead of the spoon emerging from a log, it's actually going into the log.
Yeah.
So that might be. I mean, it's a nice idea I can play about with a bit.
Great, thank you.
Make a really nice big piece of furniture. You know, if it was on another scale, you could sit on the spoon and.
Yeah, so on the spoon, you mean?
Yeah.
Lula.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I was wondering what that cow object was. That was intriguing.
Richard might remember this, and
I do.
Susie and anyone who's there at the GNAP a few years back, I had it exhibited at the dance, the garden gallery. There's actually a plaster of Paris cow with a handle at the back, so you can turn it a bit and it jumps a bit.
Thanks.
Amanda.
Can I just say, Bob, I totally admire you. The projects you take on, they're never small. They're never small. The fleece, I can remember the fleece in Dartington. Yeah, great. All power to you. Well done. Well done.
I mean, it is interesting why I got this desire to make things big. I'm sure it's a character fault that I have to try and work as big as possible to make myself as big as possible. Probably because I'm very small. So it's all psychology there.
Well done, well done.
Great. I think we should move on, but thanks to Bob. Evgenia, is that, am I saying that right? Let's go over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Evgenia, my name is Evgenia.
Okay. I wasn't sure if the G was silent or not.
That's absolutely fine. Thanks so much for having me here, Richard. And I'm really, really excited to meet everybody. It's my first time on Friday. I'm now speaking from Portugal. I'm actually based here in Portugal, just a little bit north from Lisbon. But I was at the Evolving the Forest conference, when was it, last year? That's how I came across R.Earth, and since then I've been following and connecting, and I admire the work that you're doing, and yeah, bringing all these amazing people and work together. I think it's wonderful. I also feel it's important right now to do this kind of events across borders and really establish more relationships and collaborations internationally. And this is also part of the work that I'm doing and that I'm going to share with you today. So I also wanted to say I feel a lot of connection in many different ways and relation to all the work that you just shared in many different aspects in terms of poetry, community, working with forest and forest objects and things found in nature. And I admire all of your work, and thank you so much for sharing. So the work that I wanted to share is called Eternal Forest Manifesto, and it's published on the website. Yes. Some people are messaging me privately. That's great. So I'm going to share my screen, and Richard, please tell me when it's 2 minutes before the end of my time, and then I try to kind of squeeze things a little bit. I'm going to read a bit of poetry for you in the first instance, because Eternal Forest Manifesto is quite a long piece of work. If I read the whole thing, it's 10 minutes long itself. It's a poetry piece that I would say is really the central axis of the project Eternal Forest from my perspective. I think around this piece, everything kind of comes together and everything combines, and I'm going to try to kind of paint in big brush strokes a bit of story for you. Eternal Forest Manifesto was written last year when I did an art residency in Coruche. It's a quite central place in Portugal. They have their own biennale. And the Eternal Forest Manifesto is a piece of work which I hope with time, perhaps if universe allows and people would be willing, can maybe become this kind of part of oral tradition. That's my hope, and that's my kind of vision for the future. It's written in English originally. It's been translated in Portuguese and now been translated in French. And the idea is it can be translated in other languages where eternal forest sanctuaries emerge. And I'm going to explain to you what it is. So I will read a short bit from it. I start where I begin, from beyond history, from beyond territory, from beyond time. I speak to your presence. I am your history. I am your territory. I am your time. I am your presence. Great discovery, that is you, that is within, that is around, that has no name, that is its own mother, that is its own father, that is its own child, that is its own self, that is without self, that is every self. It appears to grow, it appears to breathe, it appears to crumble, it appears to dry, it appears to run, it appears to die, it appears to sing, it appears to smell, it appears to fly, it appears to talk, it appears to still, it appears to bloom, it appears to melt, behind appearance, a being. Is it one? Is it two? Is it two? Is it many? Is it many? Is it all? Are they present? Are we present? Are you present? So this is just the beginning of manifesto as it starts, and you can also see the video with the place where we originally did the project. And now I'm going to share with you a bit of presentation. Let me see. For some reason I can only share the desktop, but I can't see the way of sharing. Hold
If
on
you share the desktop, then you should be able to open whatever.
Yeah, it's in my, hold on, it's in my, let me try. If I share the desktop.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, you see the presentation right now, yeah?
We do, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So now I need to press present. Oh, it works. Okay, so this is the Eternal Forest Manifesto scroll. So it's a long piece of fabric, and it's calligraphy written in both languages together. So it's the English in black and Portuguese in red. And it's basically a piece which is to be exhibited. I have another scroll like this, which is like, I call it a heart scroll, which I carry with me when I go to the forest and I offer to the people eternal forest experiences. So it's a really small piece, and it's also readable. So this piece I wouldn't be able to even read myself. It becomes, the poetry becomes abstract as I scribe. So Eternal Forest project for me started when I moved to from UK to Portugal, and that was 3 years ago. It was 2017. After 10 years in London, I decided that it's time to maybe find another home. And that move coincided with quite serious ecological crisis in Portugal. They had a lot of fires this year, and somehow, by some kind of incredible coincidence, magical coincidence that I now understand, I was thrown into the grassroots communities in Portugal that were discussing how they can deal with deforestation, forest fires, and monocultures that kind of everywhere here. Wherever you go, you see them. And my first step to try to really dive into the culture, into the country, into the language. I really wanted to learn the language, and also to really get to know people. I decided to attempt this art residency. And so I went, and for 2 months I was living in the countryside, and I was basically traveling around different communities. And my way of connecting with people was to make a film. There is a film called Eternal Forest. It was made in 2018, and I can post link later. You can have a look. And basically the film is like a series of interviews with people, questioning them about their relationship with forests. What I didn't realize back then is where the whole thing is going to take me. I thought it's going to be just like a small thing that I do. I show the film a couple of times, and then I will just move on to do something else. And basically what emerged is this project turned around, and I believe it really asked me to hold the space for something else to emerge. And I said, okay, maybe I'm ready to go along with that feeling and maybe try to explore a bit more. And so I'm going to share with you later like a long presentation. You can have a look at different artworks. I work a lot with poetry. My poetry usually becomes calligraphy and becomes visual work. And so I always explore various subjects around nature, time, sacred space, and sacred time. That's what I'm interested in particularly right now. And how can we deepen our conversation and our relationship with forests and nature? How can we go every time a little bit deeper? My way of doing that is through through creating visual works, of course, because I'm a visual artist and this is kind of usual way of doing that. But since the Eternal Forest project came into my life, I realized that perhaps there could be also other ways of being in this world as an artist and trying to do something a little bit different. So
I'll give you your 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I'll just say what I'm doing now, because this is exactly, this is basically where I'm now at. In 2019, I decided to apply for another art residency, and what came out of it, it was also in Portugal. What came out of it is I proposed to create an artistic eternal forest sanctuary, so a forest sanctuary in a place and protected for 1,000 years. And as I worked on this project, I worked with a community, I worked with a specific place, which now is secured for a sanctuary. What came out of it is I feel I was called to actually create many more, and not just one. I feel we need more of the places which we can call sacred spaces, we can call spaces that where we can kind of go and immerse ourselves and maybe not use these places in the forest for production or for growing food, but maybe we can have more spaces where we can contemplate and get inspired and then create art with it, create art with nature, but also inspired by it. And so right now I'm working on this, which I call totally massive. It's becoming kind of bigger than my art practice project, which is has the vision to create this 1,000 eternal forest sanctuaries. We are creating 2 in Portugal at the moment, but we are also thinking of how can we engage people and artists and curators and various collaborators to create many more. So we're thinking what could be the model of creating this kind of space and also protecting those places for longer periods of time. How can we kind of inspire communities to come into these places and use them, but also find ways of protecting them over longer periods of time. So sometimes I do eternal forest experiences, which are usually based around poetry and art. And they're silent walks. People usually don't say much, but I say just a few things. And I invite people just to go a bit deeper and to start seeing with the eyes of the forest and hearing with the ears of the forest, and kind of let go, kind of step out of anthropocentric point of view and kind of step into the shoes or roots of the forest, as I say, and start slowly shifting towards that perception, towards that space. There is basically certain ways I'm now developing how people can connect with the project. I can share with you some more information if you're interested. I am seeing that in the future, artists can connect with it by collaborating, by co-creating these spaces together. And I'm now talking to several artists who perhaps, I'm just gonna stop sharing the screen. Yeah, I'm now talking to several artists who are already interested and asking me, well, how can we do it together? How can we, tell us how can we step into that space? So there is a lot of questions and I don't have answers to all the questions. It's more like an invitation to all of you today also to, maybe just open small door into that big space, which for me, it's totally unknown. How can we do it together on a local scale, but also on an international scale? And
great.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's really, really good to hear about. Anybody, like to come in with a question or a comment? Okay, Amanda. So I'm just unmuting you, not very successfully. There you go. Okay, now we can hear you.
Sorry, it's me again. So I said nothing last week. Social sculpture, that's what I learned about on Joseph Beuys, talking about how you get an idea out and the ripples that go out. You're talking about, you know, a small community into a larger community, and how do you spread that word? How do you get that encouragement? So I just say social sculpture, there's a whole school of it, Shelley Sachs, University of the Trees, lots of things to look at like that are running on the same sort of lines.
Sadly, that course is no longer running, unfortunately.
Oh, is it? Is it gone?
Yeah, but the University of the Forest is still out there.
Okay, right. So, but just that way of putting the ideas out there and see where they run. So that's all.
Thank
Lovely,
you.
lovely. Inspired.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Lula, I will unmute you. Okay.
Lovely, thank you. I was really intrigued by that lovely scroll, and there was one on the hanging, and then out in the forest you had the little tiny one. I was really intrigued by that and how you use that.
Thank you. Yeah, that I call it a heart scroll because it literally fits in the pocket of my coat when I go, and it fits in my little bag. And I usually so it's also very long, and it has the whole poem on it. And I usually unroll the whole thing, so it falls on the floor, it falls on the grass. Well, not if it rains. If it rains, somebody has to hold it, and then I start rolling it back in and slowly reading it. So. I don't read it that often. I only read it when I do what I call Eternal Forest Experience, and also what I call Eternal Forest Sanctuary Initiation. So let's say we are creating something and we know this is the land and we are going for it and the community is there, it's present. So it's more like a ceremonial piece, which is, you know, it's usually sits in its own little box, but then it's been taken out and it's been read to the people, but also to the beings of the forest, to the forest itself.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, well, the various bits of contact details are up. I will post the saved chat, but I'll talk about that later on. Thank you. That was really, really nice. And we have one more artist. Sorry, someone has to go last. Sorry, Liz, it was you. So I'll unmute you now.
Hi. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a body of work which I call The Spirit Wraps Around Me. The name comes from a traditional shawl that I saw in a museum of anthropology in Vancouver, and the shawl had its own name, and the name and the translation of the name into English was The Spirit Wraps Around Me. So what I'm going to do is hopefully I'm going to share the screen and show you some photos and just read something. And the first bit is about this body of work, which is still ongoing. And then the second bit is what I collaborated with a photographer, and it's called Harry Corey Wright, and it was really about his side of it, what it was for him and what he saw. And then the last bit is just a bit about a background to my work, which is about what kind of led to what came before that, if you like. So we're going to try here. Here we go. Oh, sure.
Yes, we've got it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so the spirit wraps around me. What would it be like to wear the landscape like a skin? To be sensuously wrapped in those elements? It is a question that has become crucial to our times. Supposing instead of walking on a footpath or a beach, we were walking in or inside an ever-changing kaleidoscope of texture, colour, light, and process. Supposing we were literally cloaked in our surroundings. Cloak is a concept that we usually only apply to our clothes, which we generally regard as an extension of ourselves. In reality, we are constantly immersed in a multisensual exchange with our surroundings. This is a quote by Tim Ingold. Bathed in light, submerged in sound, and wrapped in feeling, the sentient body, at once both perceiver and producer, traces the paths of the world's becoming in the very course of contributing to its ongoing renewal. Here, surely, lies the essence of what it means to dwell. In this body of work, each cloak is made with materials from a specific Norfolk habitat, tideline, reed bed, and barley field. The cloak mediates between the human body and the landscape it emerges from. It's an invitation to immerse oneself in the more than human world, like plunging into cold water. More than that, by referencing ritual cloaks, it opens up the possibility of a connection with the genius loci, the deep spirit of the land. This is what the photographer Harry Corey Wright wrote about what we did. Liz and I have shared a mutual fascination with the landscape of North Norfolk, from the tidal drama of the salt marshes to the soft chalky ground within. These are ancient landscapes that continue to offer us contemporary angles to our work. Last year, Liz came to me to discuss some ideas around using the cloak to offer her a new level of immersion in the landscape. The wearing of each landscape began to open doors of perception that took her practice into new, undiscovered territory. This dialogue threw up a fundamental problem. How do you work in a process that is so immersive and translate that experience directly? To record it itself becomes detrimental to the process. She needed someone else through whom the dialogue could expand. Very soon we both became intrigued by the way the performance of her wearing a cloak within the chosen place allowed both of us to share different experiences of each particular event. Liz's performance was afforded a sense of total immersion, almost unaware of my presence. Similarly, I was able to witness the transformation of the artist into something utterly out of body, creature-like, often not altogether comfortable, but unquestionably of the place. And this is a bit of background. For many years, my work has taken the form of a conversation with the detail, patterns and processes of the North Norfolk landscape, using local found materials to make temporary interventions and installations that reflect both a particular place and my personal concerns of growth, decay, and renewal. My work has evolved from making patterns from reed, flint, berry, earth, to making work that mimics the processes of landscape, erosion, abrasion, wind, snowmelt, towards my current concerns with the nature of the human relationship with the more than human world. I have always had an interest in awakening people to the experience of the world around them. Early on, it was clear that my work, when sited in the habitat from which it was made, inspired in viewers an aesthetic appreciation of colour, texture, and form that they then applied to the greater landscape. Later on, I organised walks where the focus was on encouraging a creative, interactive, and multisensual conversation with the land we walked. The spirit wraps around me, draws these threads together, and at the same time represents for me a significant leap in my practice towards something performative and intimate, the dissolving of boundaries between worlds. Okay, so that's what I have to say.
Lovely, thank you very much. Sorry, I was just typing a response, so I will let that go for the moment. Can you, yeah, if you unshare your screen, we can.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those. Can you?
So it was something quite new and very challenging for me, in the sense that I made this cloak, and then I suddenly realised that I had to be in it. And I've actually never done that before. I've always been hidden behind, and so it was very challenging for me to suddenly be faced with that demand, if you like, that I be there.
How interesting. So the demand came from the cloak. It came from the work. Yes,
it did, and it was just somebody said, "Well, put that cloak on." And I was going, "No, you don't want to see me in that cloak." And I did. They persuaded me to put it on, and then took a photograph of me in it.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw the photograph, I realised that there was something there that had to be there.
Yeah.
And I felt incredibly fortunate that that this photographer Harry was interested and enough to kind of work with me on this, because he absolutely got that the photographs had to not be about me, but had to be about they had to be about the relationship, if you like, rather than and not about me.
And yet the photographs themselves are very alive with the body. It's inhabiting the clothing. It's absolutely a part of it. So we're not in there. If we're not wearing that, it would be very different.
Yeah, and the other interesting, because I am quite self-conscious. It was very, very difficult for me to judge the photos.
Yes.
Because there was always this bit of me that was going, well, do I look good in this? I mean, it was crazy, and I really had to, sometimes people had to really argue with me. The woman who did my publicity for that exhibition, had to really argue with me sometimes, to say, no, you've got to use this photo, you have to use it. So I had to kind of let go. That was also hard, but I had to let go a lot on that decision-making process.
Would anyone like to respond? Yes, Susie.
Hello. Thank you, Liz. That was beautiful. Amazing photographs. I'm glad you were persuaded to be in them. Has it changed? It looks very shamanic, what you're doing. And I wondered, has it, not that that's anything to do with shamanic, but has it changed your relationship to your work since you put it on? Since you've been seen in it?
I'm not sure really. I can only say that it's ongoing. So I'm working on other cloaks. I don't have at the moment. There aren't any projects as such at the moment which involve me in this way. But this one is ongoing, and will kind of carry on developing, I think. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay, lots of hands going up. So, Evgenia, yes, let's get you in.
Thank you so much, Liz. Absolutely stunning. I'm totally transformed just looking at your work from the screen. I just can imagine how it feels to wear it, and I think that is like it's just magical. I have to say, your photography did such a great job, because I think that they managed to really transmit all the subtlety of how you are and how you are doing that work and how the work is. So that's what I wanted to share. And I wanted to ask you a very practical question. I'm sorry about the barking dog. How do you save this artwork? Because I can only imagine, I work a lot with natural materials. I have sticks everywhere. How do you save it? How do you keep it? How do you transport it if needed? Or is it something ephemeral that, you know, after a while it just disappears? Thank you.
It's incredibly challenging because my work comes out of, it has its origins, if you like, in very ephemeral work. It's incredibly challenging, and something like the barley cloak had to be made over a bar, which then had to be suspended in a van, you know, because you couldn't do anything with it once it was made. So that was a huge thing. I mean, I have all that work in storage, but there's also a kind of assumption that a lot of it will have to be, next time it's shown, a lot of it will have to be remade, and so some of it will be different, I would think. But that's fine for me. You know, I don't mind that. I've never, the amount of work I make that lasts is relatively small. So that's okay. Yeah.
Ellie, I think you had a question.
So much. I was in awe at looking at both the images and also your connection with using things directly from nature, which is what I do too. I could go on a lot, but just specifically, because I feel I collaborate with nature like another artist in a way, you melding there with the landscape, and we have the photographs as documentation, which are so strong, but on a personal level, when you're there, the photographs being taken, do you feel that you have become one with the landscape while you have your cloak on? Or is that just what the image shows? Do you feel part of the landscape at that point?
I think it's a bit of both, and I think it varies at times. I will say that I do, I mean, Harry made this comment about feeling quite other, about seeing me as something quite other. And there were very definitely moments when I felt I did feel very other.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic.
Very strange. It was, in many ways, it was a very strange experience. And those and the photo shoots we did were short. You know, they were probably 30, 40 minutes at most. So they were quite, you know, we didn't think too much about it. We chose a place and we kind of went and we did it. And I think, you know, that was a good way of doing it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Okay, brilliant. I'm just going to unmute everybody, just so we can say anything we want to say at this point. I want to say a big thank you to all of the artists who've shared work today, and for everybody for joining us too, which is fantastic. I am right now, before I speak, as last time I managed to close the meeting and I couldn't save the chat. So I've just saved it now, so we've got that for the record. And as I say, we did record this, so quite likely we'll share it as well on the website. Thank you for being with us. And next time we will be back for July. I'm sure we'll be still meeting this way. And August we don't usually meet, so we'll see what happens in August. But It's been absolutely great to have you. Don't forget, if you want to share your contact details or any other website or anything like that, just type it into the chat now. Yeah, thank you all very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Wonderful.
Enjoyed that so much. Thank you so much.
Okay. Do come again, as they say.
Yes, nice to see everybody too. Really great. Yeah.
Next time, bring food. It's supposed to be food.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.